Hey guys, welcome to Motoroids. My name is Amit and this is the new 5 Series, and when I say new, this is not all new. This is the facelifted version of the 7th generation 5 Series, and as you would see, the proportions are very identifiable with the previous 5 Series, and the primary changes, as you would see, are on this grille, which is now bigger. It's taller, it's wider, and it looks more muscular. Now this variant that we have here is the M Sport variant, and you basically have two variants. You have the M Sport and you have the luxury line, and on the luxury line essentially you have a lot of chrome elements, while on the M Sport you have more aggressive, more angular styling, especially on the lower part of the front bumper, and in places you will see this glossy black finish in place of where you'll find a lot of chrome. Also on the kidney grille, these vertical lines that you see here are essentially part of the M Sport package. Now, while the chassis essentially remains the same, the length of the car has increased by 27 mm, and in terms of dimensions, that's the only difference that the new 5 Series has seen. Now, to put things into perspective, if you really want to understand how long this car is or how wide it is, how tall it is, so in terms of its height, it's the tallest car in the segment. If you want to look at the length, it's the second longest after the Mercedes E-Class. Obviously the E-Class is a long wheelbase car, and in terms of the width, it's the third widest after the A6 and the S90, and in terms of the wheelbase, it's got a pretty generous wheelbase. Despite not being a long wheelbase car, its wheelbase is the second longest in the segment, which means that you have plenty of space on the inside. Now, if you would see, the headlights also are very different on this one. They have been elongated, and this elongated theme has been carried on the grille as well as on the lights. Lights are all new here. The new headlights get these twin L-shaped DRLs, and as you can see, this blue tinge would be enough to tell you that it does indeed carry the BMW laser light technology, which can throw the beam to up to 650 meters, which is quite a long distance. And apart from that, the LED matrix headlights come here as standard, which are intelligent as well. They have an inbuilt cornering function, and apart from that, they are also anti-dazzle. So whether there is traffic coming from the opposite direction or whether you are trailing traffic, you are not going to dazzle anyone. So that's something that this car can handle all by itself. Now, all the differences between the luxury line and the M Sport variants will be listed out before I enter the car. However, the M Sport is, as the name suggests, oriented more towards a sporty outlook, and the luxury line is oriented more towards a premium, comfortable, elegant kind of a visual appeal. Now, an important thing that you'd probably have seen in a lot of BMW cars is this air curtain, which has this slit going in here, and this little slit here. Now, before I talk about the functionality of this black color that you see here will also be seen in chrome on the luxury line. However, with its new face and with these air curtains, it has an aerodynamic coefficient or drag coefficient of 0.23 CD, which is the best in this class, and this car indeed slips through air, so that really aids its fuel efficiency. Now, this being the M Sport version, you have M badging on the wheels. These are 18-inch lightweight alloys, which are better than the ones on the luxury line. You have this blue colored caliper with M badging. Now, the tires up front are 245 section, while at the rear you have 275 section tires. Obviously this is a rear wheel drive car, so you would require more traction at the rear. Apart from that, as you can see, the greenhouse area has been covered in glossy black, this being the M Sport version, and you have a body colored shark fin antenna. This car is available in 6 colors, out of which 2 are new, and this one is one of the new colors. This one is a Bernina grey amber effect color, and apart from this color you have Phytonic blue, which looks more sporty. This one looks a little bit dark and has a more understated kind of a look. Now, in terms of ground clearance, while these days you don't get the ARA numbers for the unladen ground clearance, which is a bummer, I really believe that that was a more consistent way of representing the ground clearance. However, the fully laden ground clearance of this car would be 138 mm, which I think is a little bit short of ideal. And while this car can go over some of the higher speed bumps also, if you're going over some of the more vicious bumps, it does scrape its belly, and you have to be a little bit careful when you're going over the bigger bumps. So that's something that you'll have to be careful about. Another disappointment is the fact that you don't have a proper big panoramic sunroof here. It's a small sunroof, single piece, and for this kind of a car I would have really wanted a big panoramic sunroof so that the skies could open up for the backseat passengers. Now coming towards the rear, as you would expect, there is obviously changes made to the lighting, and I really love what BMW have done with this lighting here. This light has a very unique glow to it. It's very chunky, and since it's horizontally laid out, it really lends the rear of the car a very wide kind of a stance. I personally love these lights, and with these black surrounds it really looks sporty as well. These trapezoidal ends to the exhaust are also standard across the line, and they do indeed look very sporty, and you also get a sporty touch in the form of these diffusers. Now apart from all of this, 360-degree camera comes as standard, and that is obviously befitting for a class that is in the class of the BMW 5 Series. So the rear camera sits right here, and apart from that you have two cameras on the wing mirrors. You also have a BMW projection logo working also as a puddle lamp, and you obviously have a front camera and front parking sensors as well. So in terms of driver aids, this car comes loaded. It also comes with parking assistant, reversing assistant, and it also comes with parking distance control, which is able to brake automatically in case you are reversing and there is an obstacle along the way. The M Sport variants also come with cruise control with braking function, wherein if there is a vehicle on the road which slows down, the car is able to brake itself. Now let's have a look at the key here, and since this is the M Sport variant, you will have the M colors and lock, unlock, and this tailgate button here will open up the boot space for you, and this is 530 liters of boot space, which is par for the course. You have more space in some of the other cars. The Mercedes E-Class has 540 liters of boot space, while the Audi A6 has 560 liters of boot space. So this is not the best in class. However, this is sufficient, and 530 liters of boot space is sufficient for a family of 4 to go out for a small holiday, and even for a longish holiday if you are not a heavy packer. Underneath the floorboard, you will have a space saver spare with obviously speed limits of 50 miles per hour or 80 kilometers per hour, and you also have these trays where you can store stuff, and you also have this cavity here where you can store your bottles or something else to stop it from tumbling around. You have a 12-volt power socket here. Illumination is right here, and you also have this hook here to hang your bags. There is another hidden compartment here with a lid, and that really completes our tour of the new BMW 5 Series. Now while you don't get a powered tailgate, you get this lock button which can be pressed before you shut it, so that the car locks itself when you bring down the trunk. Now the M Sport version comes with comfort access key, and in case the car is locked and the key is in your pocket, you can swing your leg underneath the car to open it, and if you have stuff in your hands, you really don't have to bother much, and the trunk will open by itself. Now apart from the key that I showed you, you can also go for this optional BMW display key, which can help park your car inside of and out of narrow opening, so that if you don't have enough space to open the doors, you can get out of the car and make the car get in or out of a narrow parking slot. Now this being a touchscreen unit, you also get a lot of options. So you can set time for the next departure. It shows you the range, and it shows you some important features like whether the doors are locked or whether the lights are on or off, whether the locks are secure, whether the windows are closed. So this is a very nice feature that you can get with the 5 Series. This key has been around for a very long time. This is nothing new, but you get it with the new 5 Series as well, and it obviously has some other controls for lock, unlock and boot release as well. Now before we enter the car, let's see what are the difference between the M Sport and the luxury line variants. And the biggest difference obviously is that the M Sport gets a Sport Plus mode, which also gives you launch control, and you can hang on to revs for as long as you want. So that is facilitated through the 8-speed Steptronic Sport transmission as opposed to the vanilla 8-speed Steptronic transmission on the luxury line. You also get cruise control with braking function, you get launch control, you get memory function for driver as well as passenger. You also get an M leather steering, carbon black color, which is exclusive to the M Sport. For the M Sport, you can also go for Napa leather in mocha or ivory, and you get 18-inch M light alloys with M badging in various parts of the car. Now the comfort access key means that unlike a few other BMW cars, you won't have to take the key out of your pocket and you can open the doors directly. And as soon as you open the door, you would be welcomed by this very high quality interior, which by the way can be had in a variety of upholsteries. So right now what you see here is the Sensatec artificial leather, but you can also have the upholstery in Dakota or Napa leather. So that's up to you how much money you want to spare. And this, although is a very high quality man-made leather, this isn't exactly leather. You also get this grey colored finish, which is rather high tech on the M Sport versions, while on the luxury line you get a wooden trim. The rear blinds can be controlled using this button, and while the mirrors are electrically controlled, they are not heated, and that's one feature that I really believe is missing here. You have a big space for a water bottle and some space to spare. You have the boot release button here and lock unlock, along with a two-way memory for the driver's seat. Since this is the M Sport version, you also have this M badging on the door sills. Before we enter, you also need to pay attention to the seats here, which are very generously equipped, and apart from four-way lumbar adjustment along with electrical adjustments for the seat, you also get electric bolstering support to increase or decrease the side bolstering electrically. You will get all these functions on the passenger side as well, but you will not get the memory function for the passenger side. Let's get inside now. Now the interior, as you would imagine, is very beautifully laid out, and it's very high quality as well. And both the seats have this adjustable thigh support, which obviously aids your comfort in the longer run. The seats are also finished in a quilted kind of a stitch, which adds to the luxurious feel of the car, and these seats are indeed very comfortable, and the added bolstering really helps. Now there are differences in features, and not all the features that you see here would be available on the luxury line, and the differences between the two variants have already been pointed out. Now another thing is that the diesel 530D gets an HUD, which you won't get here. However, what you'll get are these two big 12.3-inch screens, with one of them being the BMW Live cockpit and the other one being this big 12.3-inch infotainment screen, which comes loaded with the all-new BMW OS 7, which is very responsive and very easy to use as well. Apart from the features that I've told you about already, where you have a parking assistant as well as reversing assistant, you also get to choose from these 11 different styles of ambient lighting. As I mentioned before, you also get a 360-degree camera, which is indeed very useful, and you can activate it using this button here. And as you can see, there are some dogs at the back of the car, so it really helps you look at the surroundings, and you can have a 360-degree view. And this camera we have seen in other cars also, and it's as good. It gives you a 3D projection of the car and a very good view of what's happening around you as well. So one of the best 3D cameras that you have in the business. Really love these. The audio system here is a Harman Kardon unit with 16 speakers, and it sounds fabulous, and I had a listen to it and there is absolutely no complaints. This is one of the better sounding audio systems you will find in cars this class. Now the steering wheel is electrically adjustable for height and reach, and that's where BMW have not cut costs, and I really appreciate that. Apart from that, you have this little touchscreen here for the front 2 zones of climate control. You have 2 separate zones at the rear, so in all you have a 4-zone climate control system. Like all the new BMWs, you also have these buttons which can be designated for various different functions. This iDrive system by itself is fantastic, and it can be controlled through this controller here, or you can control it through the touchscreen. You can control it using the voice commands. So there's a lot of ways in which you can control it, and along with the ingenuity and the ease of use of the iDrive system, it really comes across as a very usable kind of an interface. The dashboard has soft to touch materials, and the same material that I showed you on the door panels is here, which is replaced by a wood trim on the luxury line. The ambient lighting looks fantastic, although I have a little bit of complaint where there are brighter spots in the middle in places, and I would have wanted this light to be consistent throughout. So that's an area where probably these lights could have looked a little bit better. You have a wireless charging unit here along with a USB socket, 2 cup holders, and there are gears to move this flap here, which shuts everything in a very neat manner. It looks very, very beautiful. Under the armrest, you have more storage space with a light and a Type-C charging USB socket as well. The central panel has controls for changing your modes, and you can choose from Sport, Comfort, Eco Pro and Adaptive modes. You can turn traction control off from here, engage the camera here, and you can engage or disengage the parking assistant using the button here. You have electronic parking brake situated here and auto hold function here. So as I mentioned before, there is no panoramic sunroof and only one piece opens here, and this is how it works. I cannot really open it for long because it's raining. However, let me just show you how far back it opens, and this is how it works. Now, as you would expect, both the mirrors with illumination, auto dimming mirrors are there. You have these 2 lights, and all in all, the feel here is that of sitting in a very, very high quality car. It's been beautifully laid out. BMW doesn't screw around with its ergonomics, so everything is very, very easily reachable. You would probably find different materials on BMW cars, but this slight tilt towards the driver and the way everything simply falls fantastically to the hand is something that they never change, and that's why it's always so easy to use. Coming to the safety, this comes with 7 airbags and it's a 5-star rated car, so absolutely no worries there, and you can take your family around and be completely worry free while being driven in a BMW. You have ample amount of headroom here. This being a sedan, you would expect that probably the height would be less, but since this is one of the tallest cars in the segment, even 6 feet 2 or 6 feet 3 people would not have any problem. The headrests also are very, very well laid out, and these seats are some of the most comfortable that you'll come across anywhere. Let's go to the back seat and see how much space and features do we have there. You can see these lights throbbing, and they work in conjunction with comfort and safety features to give you warnings. You have these soft to touch materials on the door pad, very high quality. All of it is fantastic. You have 3 small spaces within the door panel, and this space can easily take a 1-liter water bottle. Even at the lower panel, you have soft to touch material, so no problems there. The seat height is not too low, not ideal, but it won't be too much of a trouble for even the elderly to get inside. You have the M badging on the door sills here as well, and you would do well to know that this car comes with rear blinds, not just on the main window but also on the quarter glass, so it would really help you stay away from the sunlight and shield you from the heat on a hot sunny day. 2 reading lights along with a 3rd light, 4-zone climate control, 2 USB Type-C sockets and a 12-volt power socket. Some space to spare to put your wallet or cell phone, and your AC vents are situated not just in the middle, but you also have AC vents in the B pillar with flow control. Ample amount of leg room, no problem there. Ample amount of knee room, magazine holders, and this car indeed would keep you very well corseted, very well insulated. BMW has paid special attention on making sure that this car has fantastic soundproofing, and when they claim it, we tested it, we found that the sound insulation in this car is exceptional, and there is absolutely no noise coming in from the outside. One of the best noise insulated cars in any segment. You also get ample headroom, and even a 6'1" or a 6'2" person won't have much of a trouble. Probably his head would brush just a little, but it would allow even a 6'2" person to sit here without much of a problem. You also get multiple coat hooks, one here and another one right here. Seats are very well contoured, and the recline angle also is fantastic. Thigh support is fantastic. You probably would want to seat a third passenger here for short distances. Not meant for that, but you do get a 3-point seat belt for him anyway. Individual headrests for all three passengers, and not to mention the Isofix child seat mounts on both the sides are also present. Transmission tunnel does not allow for proper legroom, so not recommended to seat a third person. The central armrest is pretty wide with 2 cup holders. However, there is no space underneath this padding, and like some other cars where this flap comes up and allows you to store your cell phone or wallet, you don't have any space under the armrest. Very comfortable seats, no complaints whatsoever. And while this is not the plushest car to be driven in, I won't really complain unless you are taking me over a really bad patch of roads or a bad surface. For most part, this is a very comfortable car, and especially with the electronic dampers, with the active ride control, you can put it in comfort mode or in Eco Pro mode, and for the most part you won't have any complaints whatsoever. Only yesterday I was driving the 3 Series, and when I sat behind the steering wheel of the 5 Series, the difference was so clear in terms of the solidity, the kind of weight that you get when you're sitting behind the steering wheel. It feels a much more squatter car, a heavier car, a car which is more planted. And there is also a difference in terms of the insulation, the kind of refinement that you get from behind the steering wheel. So you do realize that you have moved a notch higher up, and it does indeed feel very, very premium, very solid, and this sense of being very connected to the ground, being very, very planted on the ground is very evident while you are behind the wheel of the 5 Series. Now what I am driving right now is the 2-liter turbo petrol, and this is the 530i. The power output here is 252 HP, and this power is produced between 5200 and 6500 RPM, and the peak torque here is 350 Newton meters. Now that power is class leading, however that torque is not. If you really compare it with a couple of other cars in this segment, it is definitely a lot more than the Mercedes E-Classes petrol, where you get a lot less power and lesser torque. However, on the Audi A6 you get lesser power, but you get slightly more torque, rated at about 370 Newton meters. But this definitely by far is the best petrol in this segment that you can buy. It has very good performance, and it can do 0 to 100 in a blistering fast 6.2 seconds. Fuel efficiency rated by ARAI is 14.8 kmpl, and within the city you will get about 8 to 9 kmpl, and on the highway you will get about 12 to 13 kmpl. You obviously have these modes to choose from. You have sport mode, you have comfort, you have Eco Pro, which really works. BMW's drive quality is fantastic. It is one of the most thrillsome cars, but you also have to give it to BMW that their efficient dynamics really work, and in the Eco Pro mode you get fantastic fuel efficiency. And then you have this adaptive mode, because this car has electronic dampers, so the dampers are adaptive, and depending on the road, this car can change the steering feel and the damping of the suspension. So you can put it on adaptive, and if the road is rough, you are going to get a very comfortable drive. And if you're driving on a smooth road where you are driving in a very spirited manner, it will automatically change the transmission and everything to a more aggressive setting. Now, as I mentioned already, it's a very refined feeling from behind the steering wheel, and it does feel like a very well built car. And I can say this with utmost confidence that within this segment, from behind the steering wheel, no other car feels as solid to drive as the 5 Series. So if you want a car to drive yourself, there is absolutely no question about it that you should be driving this car. You also have 2 other options. You can go with the 2-liter diesel, which is fabulously fuel efficient. It produces 190 HP and 400 Newton meters of torque. And if you really want to go blistering fast, you have the 3-liter diesel as well, where you have 265 HP of peak power, but more importantly 620 Newton meters of peak torque, which is monstrous. Now the 2-liter diesel does its 0 to 100 in about 7.5 seconds, and the 3-liter diesel does it the fastest in 5.7 seconds. So those are the engine options here. this petrol engine car that I'm driving right now is the least expensive. And talking specifically about this engine and transmission, this feels supremely smooth, refined, no noise from the outside. This 8-speed familiar Steptronic transmission is fantastic. It's very quick, very intelligent, and very smooth. So no complaints on that front. You obviously have these pedal shifters to shift with. So while you're driving at a leisurely pace, there is absolutely no noise coming in. You're driving in a very quiet kind of a manner. However, when you shift down and put it in sport mode, the engine has a very rev happy, very sporty kind of a burble to it. It's muffled, it's not very loud, but it moves ahead with so much urgency that you really feel like driving it fast. And if you're going to show this car a set of bends, this car being a BMW and being so well poised, it's not going to disappoint you. This car, the 5 Series, despite being so big, is one of the best experiences to drive. Although the 3 Series, being lighter, being more nimbler, is a little bit more engaging, but this 5 Series also is fantastic to drive. Now as you move from a standstill, that muffled sporty sound really eggs you on to drive it faster. And if you're someone who wants to drive himself, as I mentioned before, in this segment there is no substitute to the 5 Series. Go ahead and buy it. The suspension here is beautifully set up. It is not going to disappoint you when you want to be giving it the beans, when you want to be driving it hard around corners. The dampers being adaptive, you have the flexibility of getting a slightly softer setting, or making it slightly stiffer, so that's also not a problem at all. And the suspension by itself is very beautifully balanced. It's neither too stiff nor too soft, and not just for the person who's driving it, even for the people sitting in the back seat, there's going to be no problem whatsoever. Although there are cars which have slightly softer suspension, which are slightly more comfortable, but the 5 Series is just the perfect balance between a firm, very enthusiastic, very agile handling, and a comfortable ride. So whether you're driving the car yourself or you're sitting in the back seat, this car can keep the occupants both at the front and at the rear very happy. Also, a word about insulation. As I mentioned before, I believe that this car has the best in class sound insulation. There is absolutely no noise coming in from the outside. It's supremely well insulated. There is absolutely no tire noise, no ambient noise, no wind noise. So in my personal opinion, if you want to go for a car which is the best experience in this segment, the 5 Series takes the cake. On the exterior, this car definitely looks a good blend of muscle and elegance, and it really has street presence. And being the BMW 5 Series, being a car which has been around for ages now, it does know how to announce its arrival. I really love the way this car looks, and to me personally, this is more proportionate, especially if I compare it with the E-Class, which looks a little too elongated. This car has a squatter stance and looks beautiful. The A6 also looks very nice. It's a wider car, so it also has a very wide squat stance. And a special mention also needs to be made of the S90, which looks very muscular yet very elegant. So some of the cars in this segment look very stately, very beautiful, and obviously the new 5 Series is also one of them. Now, as I mentioned before, this car is available in 3 trims with 3 engine options, and the baseline is this one, the 530i M Sport. Above this is the 520D luxury line, and then the top of the line 5 Series is the 530D M Sport, and the prices for these 3 variants are 63, 64 and 72 lakh rupees respectively. Now if you compare it with its primary competitor, the Mercedes E-Class, the prices there are significantly higher, and the Mercedes range starts at about 64 lakh rupees and goes all the way to 81 lakh rupees for its 3-litre diesel version, which is about 8 to 9 lakh rupees more expensive than this car. So the price differential is quite a lot. But being fair, if you are someone who's looking for a car to sit in the back seat, primarily if you are chauffeur driven, then the E-Class has a better back seat. So let's be very clear about that. However, for everything else, in terms of the way this looks, the way it drives, and also in terms of the overall feel of ownership, I really believe that the BMW is the better option. It will also save you a lot of money. Also, if you want to go for something which has all the technology in the world without you having to break the bank, you can always go with the Volvo S90. Again, if you want to go with something which is the most economical car to buy in the segment, you can go with the Audi A6, which doesn't come with a diesel. However, the prices there are significantly lesser, and you'll get that car for 57 to 62 lakh rupees, and you'll probably get some discount as well there. However, having talked about all the other cars, I also want to mention here that if you want a car which does all that the 5 Series can and a lot more within the BMW family, may I strongly recommend that you go and take a test drive of the BMW 6 GT also. That's a bigger car. It comes with air suspension as standard, and it feels more luxurious from the inside. So if you want to be chauffeur driven as well as driving, you want a good balance, then the 6 GT for about 4 to 5 lakh rupees extra ex-showroom is a very good option, and you should go there and have a look at that car as well. I really hope that you like this video for all the content that we served here. If you like our long format videos, do not forget to subscribe, press that bell icon, always put Motoroids in your searches. That's very important, because otherwise you won't be able to see our content. And until next time, I'm your friend Amit signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and drive safe.